There is a belief many people grow up with, and it often begins in childhood. We are told we are unique, gifted, talented, full of potential. And while these words are well-meaning, they can also become a quiet trap. Because when someone is constantly told they are special, the mind begins to form a silent expectation that the world will eventually recognize this specialness on its own, that opportunities will simply arrive, that success will naturally unfold. And this creates a dangerous illusion, the illusion that greatness is something you are born with, not something you build. The illusion that potential is the same thing as achievement. But being special means nothing if it is not matched with effort, discipline, and action. Think about how many people you've met in your life who were naturally gifted at something. Maybe they were incredibly intelligent, maybe they were physically talented, maybe they had charisma, creativity, or a skill that seemed effortless. But how many of those people actually went on to become extraordinary? How many turned that natural advantage into mastery? Very few. Because talent does not guarantee success. Talent simply gives you a starting point. It's the foundation, but not the building. It's like having a seed and assuming the fruit will grow on its own. A seed only becomes something valuable when it is planted, watered, nurtured, challenged by the weather, and protected through storms. Being special is just the seed. Many people misunderstand what it means to be valuable in the world. The world does not reward the most talented person. The world rewards the person who is willing to do the work long after the excitement is gone. There are millions of people who could have been great musicians but never practiced. There are people who could have become thinkers, inventors, leaders, but they didn't develop the habits necessary to rise. There are athletes who had every physical advantage, but lacked the mindset to train when it was uncomfortable. Being special alone does not create greatness. What creates greatness is the willingness to consistently do what others avoid. The truth is, when someone believes they are special, they sometimes expect instant results. They expect progress to be fast and obvious. They expect improvement to feel natural. And when it doesn't, they become frustrated. They feel insulted by the struggle. They quit. But struggle is not a sign that you are incapable. Struggle is the process of transforming potential into reality. If being special was enough, there would be no champions, no geniuses, no experts, no masters, because everyone would effortlessly rise to greatness. But greatness is not effortless. It is created through repetition, failure, correction, patience, and persistence. Being special can even become a burden if it leads to the fear of trying. Some people avoid effort because effort risks exposing that their talent alone is not enough. They fear that if they try and fail, their identity as a special person will be damaged. So they do the most dangerous thing possible. They avoid trying at all. And avoidance is the enemy of growth. Avoidance is how people remain average while believing they are capable of more. When you hold on to the idea of being special without taking action, you create a life stuck between who you are and who you could have been. And that gap is where regret grows. To rise, you must detach your identity from your talent and attach it instead to your work ethic. If you believe you are special, make it mean something. Let it push you to work harder, not less. Let it be the reason you show up on the days you don't feel like it. Let it be the reason you improve your habits, discipline your mind, and train your skills. Let being special be the beginning of the journey, not the excuse that keeps you from starting. Because what truly matters is not whether you are special in your mind, but whether you become valuable in the world. Being special is internal. Value is external. Special is potential. Value is action. Special is invisible. Value is visible. The world cannot see your talent, your thoughts, your dreams, or your potential. The world can only see what you produce. The world sees the skill you sharpened, not the talent you were born with. The world sees the results of your daily habits, not the ideas you only thought about. The world sees the actions you took, not the intentions you kept inside. This is why the most successful people are rarely the ones who start with the most natural advantage. They are the ones who build discipline. They train when they don't want to. They learn deeply. They improve continuously. They remain students even after others start calling them experts. They treat their dream like a responsibility rather than a wish. They act as if no one will save them. No one will hand them the opportunity. No one will guarantee the outcome. Because no one will. Not for them, not for you, not for anyone. You don't earn success because you are special. You earn success because you show that you are willing to do what it requires, consistently, relentlessly, patiently. Most people never do this. That is why most people never become who they could be. They wait for something magical to happen. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect burst of motivation, the perfect opportunity. But waiting keeps them in the same place while time moves on. And time does not slow down for anyone. Every day you live is a day that is either invested in your potential or wasted by your comfort. Being special doesn't decide that. Your actions do. There are countless people in this world who are naturally talented. People who can pick up a skill quickly, understand concepts faster than others, or show ability without much effort. And yet, when you look at the highest achievers in any field, whether it's sports, business, art, science, or leadership, you will find that very few of them are simply the most talented. What truly separates extraordinary performers from everyone else is not raw talent, but the willingness to show up every single day and work. Consistency is the force that shapes potential into power. Consistency is what turns small steps into monumental transformation. Consistency is the reason someone without natural ability can eventually outperform someone who started ahead. Talent can give you a head start, but it cannot carry you to the finish line. Because talent is passive, it is something you receive, not something you earn. But consistency is active. It is a choice. It is something you must decide again and again, especially on the days when you don't feel motivated, inspired, or confident. The person who is consistent trains even when progress feels slow. The consistent person practices even when no one is watching. The consistent person keeps going through boredom, fatigue, failure, and doubt. That is the difference maker. The reason consistency beats talent is because talent creates expectations, while consistency builds progress. Someone with natural talent may expect results to come quickly, and when results don't come instantly, frustration sets in. They feel challenged for the first time and may stop because they are not used to difficulty. But the person who is consistent understands from the beginning that growth takes time. They are not surprised by struggle, they accept it as part of the process. So while the talented person waits for the perfect moment or the perfect burst of motivation, the consistent person keeps taking steps, small but steady. In life, momentum matters more than speed. It is better to move forward slowly every day than to sprint occasionally and stop. Most breakthroughs do not come from sudden effort. They come from repeated effort. The person who practices a skill for 20 minutes every day for a year will surpass the person who practices it for 2 hours once a month, because the brain learns through repetition. Muscles strengthen through repetition. Discipline forms through repetition. Identity transforms through repetition. Consistency is not only about what you do, it is about who you become through what you repeatedly do. Another reason consistency is more powerful than talent is that consistency builds confidence. Not the fake confidence that comes from believing you are naturally gifted, but the real confidence that comes from knowing you earned every bit of your progress. When you show up for yourself again and again, you learn to trust yourself. You learn that you are capable of doing hard things, not just once, but repeatedly. That trust becomes inner strength. It becomes resilience. It becomes the ability to face challenges without breaking. A talented person may have confidence in their ability, but if their ability has never been tested, that confidence is fragile. The consistent person develops confidence that is unshakable because it is built through effort. Consistency also has a compounding effect. The results of consistent effort are not always visible in the beginning. Sometimes you work for weeks or months and see almost no improvement, but growth is rarely linear. Growth is often invisible until it becomes undeniable. The person who remains consistent through the invisible progress phase is the one who eventually breaks through. Meanwhile, the talented person who expects quick results often quits before that breakthrough would have arrived. They stop right at the edge of transformation, not realizing how close they were. The world often praises talent, but it silently respects consistency. People admire someone who continues to chase their goals despite setbacks. People are inspired by dedication that does not depend on mood. People are moved by persistence that refuses to fade. Those who rise to the top are remembered not because they were born different, but because they refused to stop showing up. This applies to every area of life: fitness, education, business, relationships, skill building, self-improvement. If you go to the gym only when you feel excited, you will never get strong. If you study only when it feels easy, you will never master knowledge. If you work on your craft only when inspiration strikes, you will never reach mastery. The consistent person understands that results come from routine, not intensity. They make their growth automatic by integrating it into their daily life. They create habits that support their goals so that progress does not rely on emotion. Consistency also teaches patience, and patience is essential for greatness. When you are consistent, you learn to appreciate the process rather than obsess over the outcome. You learn to focus on improving today instead of worrying about how far you still have to go. You learn to honor small progress instead of chasing perfection. You learn that mastery is less about talent and more about endurance. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are reinforcing the identity of someone who does what needs to be done. And identity shapes destiny. The most talented person in the room is not always the one who succeeds, because talent without consistency is wasted. But the person who is consistent will always grow, always improve, always move forward. Consistency turns ordinary people into extraordinary performers. Consistency turns effort into excellence. Consistency turns dreams into reality. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people think discipline means restriction, punishment, or the removal of comfort. But in reality, discipline is not about taking life away from you. It is about giving you control over it. Discipline is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. Discipline means your actions are not controlled by your emotions. It means your goals are not dependent on your mood. Discipline is the real source of freedom because it puts you in charge of your direction, your habits, your progress, and your future. When you rely on motivation, your effort becomes inconsistent. Motivation comes and goes like the weather. Some days you feel ready to take on the world, and other days even the smallest task feels overwhelming. Motivation is powerful, but temporary. It's an emotional spark, not a strategy. Discipline, however, is consistent. Discipline is doing the work, not because you are inspired, but because you have decided that your dream is non-negotiable. Discipline is the real power because it stays when excitement disappears. It remains when the mood fluctuates. It endures through difficulty, fatigue, boredom, and doubt. Most people do not fail because they lack talent or intelligence. They fail because they are controlled by their impulses instead of their priorities. They choose what feels good now over what will feel great later. They choose comfort over growth, distraction over improvement, and familiarity over progress. Discipline is the ability to choose purpose over pleasure. Not all the time, but consistently enough that your habits shape your life in the direction you want to go. Discipline is what transforms a person's identity. A person who practices discipline learns to trust themselves. They know they can rely on their own word. If they say they will wake up early, they do. If they say they will train, they do. If they say they will study, they do. This internal reliability is powerful because it builds self-respect. So many people feel weak, not because they are weak, but because they keep breaking the promises they make to themselves. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," and don't, you teach yourself that your words mean nothing. Discipline repairs that. Discipline builds internal strength. It is not about perfection. It is about keeping your commitments more often than you break them. Discipline is also the key to mastery. No one becomes great at anything overnight. Behind every expert is years of repetition, correction, patience, and effort. The best athletes practice skills thousands of times. The best musicians repeat the same piece until it becomes part of their muscle memory. The best thinkers rewrite, refine, and revise endlessly. Natural ability may help someone begin, but discipline determines who continues long enough to become exceptional. Mastery is not born from talent. It is carved through disciplined practice. Discipline also protects you from short-term emotions that can sabotage long-term progress. Emotions are temporary. Frustration is temporary, boredom is temporary, lack of motivation is temporary, but the consequences of giving up, quitting, or stopping can last for years. Discipline teaches you that your feelings are valid, but they do not have to dictate your actions. You can be tired and still choose to move forward. You can be frustrated and still stay committed. You can feel doubt and still take the next step. Discipline allows you to act with purpose even when your emotions are loud. There is a unique kind of peace that comes from discipline. When you live with discipline, life becomes simpler. You do not waste energy debating with yourself every day. You do not constantly negotiate between your desires and your responsibilities. You do not depend on the whims of motivation. You simply follow what you have chosen. Your mind becomes clearer because you are not constantly fighting yourself. The battle of self-conflict begins to fade because your habits align with your goals. This kind of alignment creates inner strength that cannot be easily shaken. Discipline is also what allows you to handle failure correctly. People without discipline see failure as a sign to quit, but disciplined people understand failure as information. Failure shows what must be improved. Failure teaches. Failure strengthens resilience. A person with discipline does not attach their identity to success or failure. They attach their identity to effort, growth, and consistency. This mindset protects them from becoming discouraged when challenges appear. Many people wait for the right moment. They wait to feel ready. They wait for conditions to be perfect, for circumstances to align, for clarity to arrive. But the right moment is created, not found. Discipline removes the need for the perfect moment. You start where you are with what you have, and you build from there. Progress is rarely dramatic. It is often subtle, slow, quiet, and invisible. Discipline keeps you moving during this invisible stage, when there are no results to show yet. Without discipline, most people quit during this period. With discipline, you build the foundation that others never see. Discipline is the great equalizer. You do not have to be the smartest. You do not have to be the most talented. You do not have to have the best background or the perfect circumstances. If you have discipline, you can surpass those who started ahead of you. You can rise through persistence. You can grow built on your own effort. You can achieve what once felt impossible because discipline is the force that turns intention into reality, desire into growth, and ambition into achievement. Your identity is not something you are born with fully formed. It is not something fixed, permanent, or unchangeable. Your identity is shaped every day by the choices you make, the habits you practice, and the actions you take. You become who you repeatedly are. If you take action aligned with strength, growth, and purpose, you become someone strong, growing, and purposeful. If you consistently take action aligned with avoidance, distraction, and hesitation, you become someone defined by avoidance, distraction, and hesitation. Identity is not built in your mind. It is built through your behavior. You are not what you think you are what you do. Many people misunderstand this. They believe identity comes first and action comes after. They say, I'll start working out once I feel like the kind of person who exercises, or I'll start being confident once I believe in myself. But this mindset is backwards. Confidence does not come before action. It comes from action. Discipline does not appear before consistency. It is created by showing up consistently. Strength is not something you have before you face challenges. It is developed by facing challenges. You become the person you want to be by acting as if you already are that person before the evidence appears. The actions you repeat are like votes you cast for the type of person you are becoming. Each time you choose to study, you are casting a vote for being a focused and knowledgeable person. Each time you train your body, you are casting a vote for being a healthy and disciplined person. Each time you work on your craft, you are casting a vote for being a skilled and dedicated person. These votes accumulate, slowly at first, then noticeably, then undeniably. Identity does not change in a moment of inspiration. It changes through a collection of small actions repeated consistently. But the opposite is also true. When you procrastinate, avoid difficulty, break your word to yourself, or choose comfort over commitment, you are also casting votes, not for what you want to become, but for what you remain. Every action either strengthens the identity you desire or the identity you are trying to leave behind. This is why change feels so difficult. It is not just about doing something different. It is about shifting how you see yourself. It is about letting go of the familiar version of you that you have repeated for years. And the mind resists this because identity feels safe even when it is limiting. However, action bypasses this resistance. Action does not require you to fully believe first. Action simply requires that you move. You take one step. You make one choice aligned with the person you want to be, and then another, and another. Eventually, your mind begins to catch up. Eventually, you begin to feel like the kind of person who does those things naturally. Identity follows action, not the other way around. This is why people who wait to feel ready never begin. They believe identity is something that appears by thinking long enough, planning carefully enough, or wishing intensely enough. But identity is shaped in motion. A person becomes a writer by writing, not by thinking about writing. A person becomes a runner by running, not by imagining running. A person becomes confident by practicing courage, not by waiting for fear to disappear. You do not become something by wanting it. You become it by doing it. This understanding also reveals why people stay stuck in cycles they do not enjoy. If you constantly tell yourself that you are lazy, unmotivated, or not good enough, and your actions support those beliefs, you reinforce that identity. Identity is strengthened by repetition. But the moment you take a different action, even a small one, you disrupt the pattern. It does not matter if the action is imperfect. What matters is that it happens, because action is the signal to your brain that change is possible. The truly empowering part of this is that the barrier between who you are and who you want to be is not as big as it feels. It is not about making dramatic life transformations in a day. It is about repeating the identity you want through action until it becomes natural. If you want to become disciplined, start with one small commitment daily. If you want to become confident, speak up one more time than you normally would. If you want to become healthy, make one healthier choice today. These small actions matter because identity grows from them. It is not the size of the action, but the consistency of it. When you begin taking action toward a new identity, there will be resistance. The old identity will try to pull you back because it is familiar. The mind likes what it knows, even if what it knows is mediocrity. But every time you choose the action aligned with your future self instead of your past self, you weaken the pull of the old identity. You stop living by the memory of who you were and start living by the vision of who you are becoming. Action is also powerful because it builds evidence. The mind believes what it can see repeated. When you take action repeatedly, your brain develops proof that you are capable, consistent, persistent, and strong. This evidence becomes confidence, not the fake kind based on words or wishes, but real confidence based on experience. The more evidence you build, the harder it becomes to doubt yourself because you have seen yourself follow through. You have seen yourself improve. You have seen yourself persist. Identity is not found. Identity is built. Identity is built choice by choice, routine by routine, action by action. You do not need to know everything. You do not need to feel ready. You only need to continue taking the actions that express the identity you wish to live.